In this lesson, we're going to be looking at functions and domain and range. This is section 2.1 in the Algebra 2 book. A function is something in which the domain does not repeat. The domain is the x values, so you want to look at your x values and see if they're repeating, which makes it not a function, or they're not repeating, which means it is a function. So in this first example, we have the coordinate 0, 4, 1, 5, 1, 2, and 3, 8. Since we repeated the value 1 in the domain, or the x values, then this is making it not a function because there's repeating involved. Think about repeating yourself is bad, makes you not a function. Look at the second example. See if you think that's a function, yes or no. In the second example, this is a function, yes. The domain does not repeat, so this is a function. Using the vertical line test, you can look at a graph to see if it's a function or not. If you draw vertical lines through your graph at different points, and you're only touching your graph per vertical line, or once per vertical line, then it is a function. So the first one is yes, a function, because every time I draw a vertical line, I'm only touching my function or my graph in one place. Look at the second one. Think about if you drew a vertical line, how many places we touch our graph. We touch our graph in 2 places, so therefore this is not a function. It fails the vertical line test. Try the third one. Think about drawing vertical lines through your equation, or through your graph, and how many times you would touch that graph per vertical line. We're only touching our graph once per vertical line, so this is yes, a function. Okay, on the next one, domain is the x values, range is the y values. When we state the domain and range, looking at coordinates, for the domain I just state out the x values. 3, -1, and 0 is the domain for number 1. For range, you have to state out the y values. 3, 4, and -5 would be the range for number 1. On number 2, we are going to state the domain and range. Try this one without my help and see if you can do it. Domain would be -5, -8, and 0. Range, 4, 6, and 2. On number 3, when you're looking at graphs, it gets a little bit more complicated. On number 3, we have a graph that starts at the point 2, 1, and then curves up and to the right, goes up and to the right from the point 2, 1. Now, if you look at the domain, you're focusing on the x values. The x values start at 2, and then they curve up to the right from there, which is things that are bigger than 2. So for the domain, we would say that x is all things greater than or equal to 2. For the range, we start at the value 1. That's the value that we start at on for y, and you're curving up from there things bigger than 1. So for range, we say y is greater than or equal to 1. Look at number 4. The starting point for this graph is 0, 1. When we look at 0 for the domain, we are taking a graph and curving it everything to the left and everything to the right. So that's everything smaller than 0 and everything bigger than 0. That means we would say all real numbers for our domain. For the range, we start at 1 on the y, and we're going strictly up higher from there, but not lower. So we say that y is greater than or equal to 1. Only things bigger or equal to 1, but not things smaller. Try this next one as an example and see what you think about the domain and range. For domain, we want to start with 3. We are only taking things curving up to the right and not to the left, so we want to say x is greater than or equal to 3. For the range, we start at 0, and our graph curves up and it curves down, so we say all real numbers because we're going things bigger and smaller than 0.